Sweden is in trouble. Before I go through the 5 concerns I have about my country, I need to warn you because this video might trigger you. Also, just so you know, I don't need you to agree with me. I love you regardless of your opinion. So why am I making this video? I mean, ideally, I'd like Sweden to not get destroyed. Let me put it this way. If I was in a super toxic relationship and my best friend could clearly tell that I was in an unhealthy relationship that was hurting me, I would want him to voice his concerns and talk to me about it. In this case, I'm the friend trying to save Sweden from falling off the cliff that this country is clearly heading towards. Alright, so in no particular order, my first concern is that people in Sweden have a fear of conversations. It has gotten way too common to simply not even engage with each other. People shut down and assume so much. So I've been thinking, someone's skin color really is irrelevant, isn't it? Their values, character traits, merits are way more interesting. What I'm hearing is you're racist. The way I think about it is like, do whatever you want as an adult, but don't expose children to sexual content and like strip in front of them. Like that seems a little inappropriate, no? Right, you're a fascist Nazi. Got it. Hey, now that it's been a couple years, do you really think it was necessary for all those young, healthy people to put a jab in their arm? Are you serious? You're an anti-vaxxer? See what I mean? It's almost become impossible to even question things. People are so quick to just label you, rather than have an actual dialogue and explore the other person's opinions. Because in reality, a lot of the challenges we're facing today aren't black and white. There's a lot of gray area to them, and I think everyone would benefit from more curiosity and less judgment. It also doesn't help that people are kind of addicted to virtue signaling, meaning people are desperate to be politically correct because they're human and they fear rejection and what other people are gonna think. But I think one of the biggest reasons we struggle to have productive conversations about big topics is because our identities have become so tied to politics. I mean, 20 years ago, I was just a kid, but I got the sense that political opinions didn't seem to define people the way it does today. Maybe because social media wasn't around. I realized this rather recently because of my dad and his brother-in-law. For the past 3 decades, I've watched these two family members travel together, cook together, laugh, cry. Their bond is super strong, like best friends. And I didn't think much of it until last year when I found out that they both are on complete polar opposite ends of the political spectrum. They have always voted like completely different in every election, but still, they get along. And I think we need more of that. Because the truth is, as crazy as I think some people are, if I had their upbringing and lived their life like they did, I would also think the way they do and have their opinions. Understanding that, I think, can remove a lot of that initial judgment that we might otherwise feel towards people. My second concern for Sweden is bad immigration. When I go to Japan, I expect Japanese culture, people, their language, cute anime girls. When I go to Italy, I expect pizza, olive oil, football, and a lot of people going like this. If I go to France or Egypt, doesn't matter where I go, this applies to every culture and country in the world. Maybe you can help me out here, because I really don't understand what's controversial about wanting to protect and honor the beautifully rich culture, language, values, and the heritage that so many countries are built upon. And you should know that I am an immigrant. I have lived in multiple Western countries for extended periods of time, and whatever country I move to, I ensure I do my very best to blend in and assimilate to whatever country that I'm in. And I do my best to contribute as much as I possibly can. Not only, of course, like financially, you pay a lot of taxes, you're welcome Australia, but also to my neighbors, my community that I'm in. I read about the country's history because I am a guest in their country. And I don't know about you, but when I was a guest in someone's house as a kid, I obeyed their rules and respected their house more than I even did my own. And I promise you, not all immigrants have this mindset. When I had lived in Australia for like 3 years, my dad finally decided to visit me. I lived in Sydney at the time, showed him around the place, the beaches, the restaurants, and after like a week, my dad looked at me and he's like, "Is this it?" He was confused. He didn't really understand, like, is this Australia? His expectation was like Crocodile Dundee and Steve Irwin. And in his first week in Australia, he had barely heard the Aussie accent even once. It was only when he went on a 2-week road trip out of Sydney into the countryside, stopping by small towns, weird little pubs, where he got to connect with the true, like, down under culture of Australia.
G'day, mate. We're not here to fuck spiders, so let's get into it.
And he was obsessed. He's like, wow, this is amazing. But if he had only stayed in Sydney, I don't think he would have come to that conclusion. Like, imagine if 3 million Swedish guys like myself moved to Egypt, and entire suburbs and neighborhoods of Cairo became like Swedish only. And if you go there on the weekend, you'd see entire football fields covered in like saunas that we had built because we just miss our saunas. And if you're in the area, you have to eat a cinnamon bun every afternoon. And of course, us Swedes there, we wouldn't bother learning the language of the native Egyptian people. No. Pyramids? What even are those? We don't really care. Now, if the Egyptians that lived there before would look at that and be concerned, I would say, Good. You should be concerned about that. Like, who do these Swedish people think they are? With that said, I would never blame an immigrant like myself for making the move to another country. Same thing in a company. If a manager hires a bad employee, I'm not mad at that new team member. My critique is of the manager, because it's not the new employee's fault. They just wanted a job. It's the leader's fault. So if I was from the third world, I would also want to move to Sweden and take advantage of the incredible social benefits. People who move here and take advantage of us are smart. We are the dumb ones for letting it happen. I think the comparison between a country and a company here works really well. I lived through it myself. I was part of a startup that was growing really fast, and it had incredible team culture. We were like 15 employees, united under the same core values. We were tight. And because we were growing, we would hire, one employee every few months, and the new team members would assimilate beautifully because there were 15 of us. They couldn't help but just marinate in the culture that we had built. And after a few years of steady growth, we were like 30 employees. The company all of a sudden decided to hire like 30 people in a matter of a few weeks. All of a sudden, I'm in the company kitchen. I don't recognize any of the new faces. The culture that once was started to kind of get diluted. It was kind of unclear what and who are we. It was confusing and also sad because I was kind of grieving what once was. And this all resulted in a huge drop in employee satisfaction, and the company had one of the worst years financially speaking. The reality is, when a company hires a lot of people fast, it's very likely that the company culture is going to change, versus the approach of hiring very deliberately and slow, ensuring that each new team member is truly enrolled into the company culture that already exists. This approach also applies to immigration. When a country has highly selected, low controlled volume of immigration, ensuring that every person that enters the country assimilates to the values, the culture, learns the language. It's a beautiful thing. Just like hiring a new employee for a company is a beautiful thing. Or when you bring in high volume of employees or immigrants with no to low levels of background checks from cultures that are very different, it's just a recipe for disaster. Like, I've hired quite a few video editors for social media in my days, and I would never hire a video editor from a TV company that's worked for 30 years with experience in that field, because traditional media is different from social media. It's a different culture. That old school editor would not be compatible with my team. So I'm very careful hiring people from traditional media, because just like bad hires can destroy a company, bad immigration also can destroy a country. And it's the responsibility of the manager to fire that toxic team member, because otherwise it risks the entire company going bankrupt, and then everyone loses their job. So by deporting toxic immigrants sounds so harsh, and people are like, but to me, this is not controversial whatsoever. It's just common sense. By kicking out toxic immigrants, the government is saving the country, just like a good leader would save the company by firing a toxic team member. So a lot of people are scared to speak out about this stuff, and I apologize to absolutely no one. Time for the third concern about Sweden, and it is the suicidal empathy. Sweden as a nation is the ultimate example of what not to do during an airplane emergency. We put the mask on anyone and everyone else before ourselves. Imagine this mindset in a company. All right, so Michael, hey boss, I can see here that you have not hit a single KPI this quarter, and you have been sexually harassing multiple colleagues. Multiple? It was only like 3. And you're pooping in the company kitchen sink. Yeah, I was desperate. It's a little weird. But you know what? You did tell me that you really needed this job to feed your family, so you can keep it. This is suicidal empathy. We put others ahead of ourselves to the point where our daughters, sisters, and grandmas are being raped at a higher rate than ever. 99% of Swedish people I talk to do not see any of these things as issues, which I totally understand. People just want to live their lives, put their heads in the sand. I mean, I do too. But unfortunately, we can't do that and also expect our country to survive and thrive. I think I know what it is. I think we lack a sense of self-love for our country and our culture. Like, where are all the people who grew up in Sweden are just like, my country is the best. If I had to summarize Sweden and what it was like to grow up there in 2 words, I would say safe and wholesome. I mean, we used to have the most beautiful high-trust society to raise a family in. When I grew up in the 90s, we would go abroad for 2 weeks and we wouldn't even lock the doors to our house. It was crazy. And today, it's the opposite. We need to put locks on our steering wheels in our cars, otherwise the cars get stolen. We have horrific crimes across the country. Our girls and women have never been more unsafe. Also, criminals go unpunished. We have gang crimes. People are throwing grenades. When I go to travel to Sweden, I get like terrorism warning. Like, are you sure you want to go to Sweden? Like, you might die. We have like over 60 no-go zones where like even police don't want to go because there's so much criminality there. They're like high-risk areas. And there are areas where complete like non-Swedish cultures are growing in like parallel to ours. Like, it's not a united country. And those are the extreme facts, but what kind of hurts me even more are things like when my niece goes to soccer practice or dance class, they can't speak Swedish there because there's just too many people from other countries that, like we put Swedish aside, we speak another language now. We used to have an extremely like homogenous culture compared to how scattered it is now. Just like the company story where the culture changes when you bring so many other people in. The reality is like less than 0.1% of the world's population are natively Swedish. Maybe it's time we start seeing ourselves as the minority. Bam! Are you ready for concern number 4? I mean, I'm only getting warmed up. Let's go! Low birth rates. I think it's funny how we can all agree that it's bad when, an animal species goes extinct. Like, we want to protect the endangered species. So why can't we apply that to our own people? The population of Swedish people like myself, we have been on the decline lately. Right now, we're averaging like 1.5 children per woman. And in order to like sustain a population, you need like 2.1. So we're dying. And when you compare that to a lot of the immigrants that come into our country, they average like 3 or 4 children per woman. You fast forward into the future, a couple decades, all of a sudden, Swedish people in Sweden will be a minority. It's just a fact. Do you think that's good? I don't think that's good for any country. And I think when it comes to birth rates, it doesn't help that most people in today's society in the Western world have been programmed to prioritize your career. Definitely don't start family in your 20s. Definitely wait 30 plus. That's crazy considering the clock that women are on. And combine that with the fact that the state of dating is like an absolute disaster, not serving either men or women's well-being. Not to mention the even bigger impact on society when like men starts thinking women are hoes and women think men are douchebags. Like there's a correlation between the health of a nation and how their women and men view each other. Also, in Sweden, we are the most brainwashed population when it comes to climate change. We would rather have 0 kids and go extinct than to possibly hurt Mother Nature by adding a couple more children. Like, what? Don't get me wrong, I love nature, but it's scary the amount of people that think using like paper straws, removing plastic bags, making EVs mandatory, forcing wind power everywhere, shutting down our nuclear energy, that these would be the best solutions to help the environment. And on top of that, considering how minuscule Sweden is compared to like, China, Asia, or the rest of the world. Again, it's just 100% virtue signaling. People are told think this way in order to be perceived as a good moral person, and they just go along with it. Like generally speaking, Swedish people were just a bunch of sheep. I was one of them. And the biggest perpetrator of this groupthink, politically correct approach in Sweden is, you guessed it, the corrupt media. It's so obvious that my enemy is not my neighbor who disagrees with my political opinions. The real enemy, if you look beneath the surface of society, are the elites, the people that are benefiting from the wars, the mass media that don't actually care if they're causing corruption for society. They care about getting clicks and attention and making more money. And they get funded by certain sides and organizations that have certain agendas. But to think that traditional media, whether it's newspapers or just the news you see on TV, to think that they are unbiased and providing you with accurate information is just crazy. What I love about the American media is that they don't even pretend, right? You have like the Fox News on one side and you have like this is everything else basically on the other. It's just like they're not even pretending to hide. But in Sweden, it's like the state media that we're forced to pay. We can't even not pay for it. Same thing in Canada. Like the government is running the media, the propaganda machine. And all I'm encouraging you and anyone to do is to get your information from a variety of sources. And also, I would highly recommend long form, raw, unedited material. I'd rather listen to a politician talk for 3 hours on a podcast than get a 20-second clip from a ultra-biased news source that's trying to, push him down and make him seem like the devil. And don't get me wrong, I'm a professional video editor. I love good storytelling. And the power of editing is that I can take a Disney princess movie and turn it into a horror film. I can go into the city and interview 100 people and only use the 3 people that said a bad thing about this thing just to create a narrative about that. I can cut words out. I can take things out of context. It's so easy to create a narrative if I want to. The media tries to tell us what to think, who to like, who to dislike, who the bad guy is, who's the good guy, and I encourage you to just question it. In summary, I am worried about the trajectory of my beautiful country, Sweden. And frankly, all of the West. Like, what's going on? But I do see the adversity that we're going through right now as a source of contrast to how good we once had it. And more people are waking up to that fact that we have some issues to deal with right now, which is exciting. But we really do have some work to do if we want our country to be recognizable for our kids and our grandkids. What do you think? Am I crazy? If you made it this far, I would love to hear your thoughts in a comment below. I love you a lot. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you around.